In today's business world, change is the only constant, and mastering transformation is the ultimate key to success. Welcome to Shift and Thrive. I'm your host, Natalie Nathanson. Each week, we'll bring you conversations with CEOs who delve into how they successfully drove critical change in their organization. This show is sponsored by Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service B2B marketing agency. Today's guest is a seasoned roboticist and entrepreneur dedicated to transforming agriculture through precision robotics. She began her career focusing on hardware projects related to robotics and unmanned aerial vehicles. Her current company is committed to making farming technology easy to use and affordable by providing the industry with cost-effective, modular, and repairable robotic solutions. She is the co-founder and CEO of Rotate8. Katie Bradford, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me today, Natalie.
I'm really excited to have you and for the discussion. And I wanted to start by asking you, for a company that's in the beta stage and developing some really innovative agricultural robotics, I know you've already navigated some key decision points in getting the company to its current stage, including a big one tied to product development early on. So can you walk us through what that entailed and some of what you learned through that experience?
Absolutely. So when I joined the company, we were developing upon some R&D that had been done over the last couple of years in an open source way through Twisted Fields, one of our sister companies. And the initial intention was to take that design and turn it into something that was scalable, manufacturable, low cost, robust, etc., commercializable. And that is still our goal. However, a lot of the kind of core design principles around it needed adjustment in order to achieve that scalability, that robustness. So when I first came in, my first goal was to completely understand the current state of development. I wanted to understand, why design decisions had been made the way they did. I wanted to talk to the engineers and really understand it before making any changes to anything, because I think one thing that I've seen leaders do in the past when I've been an engineer is they come in and they have these, predefined ideas of how things should be. And sometimes it can really piss people off and not create a good relationship with the existing team. And also, they often make the wrong decision because they don't understand why things are the way they are, and they just have these preconceived notions. So the first thing that I wanted to do was really understand, where the design was coming from and what had led to that product as it stood. So that was probably the first couple weeks or months of getting to know the design well. And then, we had to make some decisions around, a lot of work has been poured into this particular design. It's at a certain stage of maturity, but is it the right thing in the long term? And is it better to take the design as it is now and continue trying to push through some of the obstacles we found with it and some of the kind of long-term challenges with developing that solution? Or is it better to kind of go back to the drawing board and reevaluate what makes this design strong and what things can we address in the design that will make it even better? And maybe it'll take us an extra 6 months, a year to get it to that stage. But once we do, are we then able to accelerate our production and better adhere to those principles of, scalability, manufacturability, robustness, low cost? So that was, we had to basically analyze every part of the design and decide what made sense to readdress and what made sense to keep as what had been working for us.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear, was there kind of a single point where you knew that was the right decision? Like, was it a very obvious decision point, or were there kind of back and forth and kind of working through the trade-offs? What did that look like for you? And also as a leader, kind of what did it feel like to work through that process?
Yeah, it felt more like an avalanche. There were, a couple small things where we said, well, what if we changed this bit to make this a little better? And what if we, tweaked this? And as we were going through that process, we realized, well, if we're going to do that, we might as well address this entire thing. And it kind of started to scale and made a step back and say, okay, if we're going to do this, we should probably just commit to doing this. And that was tough. It's hard to, especially for people who have been working on something for a long time. It's hard to step back and And I've had trouble in the past as an engineer when I've had to redesign things, saying goodbye to things that I had worked on and things that had grown very attached to. Um, and and it's hard to know if you're making the right decision because you're committing the team to extra months of work. So we had to really evaluate, does this make sense for us? And eventually that avalanche came to fruition of, yes, we should take this leap, and we should, instead of making these incremental decisions that can just help us get along, address the entire thing.
Yeah. I love that you've been kind of on the other side of that, right? As an engineer, which you mentioned, I would imagine that gives you kind of a different kind of empathy for what the team is experiencing when they hear that message. And I'm curious, like, what was your communication like to the team? Were you concerned about doing that? And looking back now, is there anything you would have done differently in hindsight?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was an engineer, and I still am. I'm a leader at this company, but I also still every day do engineering work and work with the team directly. I am part of that team. And one of the reasons when I was describing this process, I used the term we. It wasn't me saying, telling everyone this is how we're going to do things. It was very much a series of conversations with the team, with my co-founder, with the engineers. It was not something that I enforced upon the team. It was something that we came to the conclusion together. And I think that helped strengthen everyone's resolve for it too, as opposed to, again, when I've been at companies where a leadership member will come in and say, we're changing things, we're doing it this way now. There's a lot of frustration and a lot of, well, I didn't, get to have a say in that. And it's not always possible, especially with larger teams, for everyone to have a say. That can be dangerous too, having 9 opinions and they can't all get along. But at least as the kind of core change that we made, being all on the same page about it and all understanding that this is what was best for all of us, it would help us succeed as a company, I think really helped make it less painful.
Yes, for sure. And how would you describe the current stage of kind of where you are in that journey? Is that kind of all in the past, or are you still like in that process?
I think we've gotten the design kind of back to a point where it was in terms of capability, but in so much more of a robust and scalable way. So when we were at this stage, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months ago with the previous design, I think we were seeing a lot of roadblocks, and we were seeing a lot of difficulty ahead. And right now I see so much potential and so much capability to expand from here. Our mechanical and software and electrical designs are all at a point where it's easy to see how we can get to that next stage, and we just have to put in the work and the time to get there, as opposed to overcoming these technological hurdles.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like those investments are already paying off and will continue to do so.
Mhm.
I'm curious to hear from you. I know you haven't yet launched kind of more in your go to market, but can you talk about how you're thinking about kind of launching more broadly when you're ready, and kind of what does that go to market strategy or thinking look like based on kind of current stage? I know that can change as things evolve.
Absolutely. So we're really looking at slow, sustainable growth for our company, and part of that comes from the fact that we are bootstrapped and we're a small team, and we're not trying to accelerate with outside funding. And we had that opportunity to grow slowly and get it right the first time. So we Rotate8 operates directly on a farm, and so we test our farm automation technology directly on this farm, which has been a really great opportunity to test our technology right away in the hands of the people who will be using it. The farm workers here use our technology and give us feedback on it directly, which is incredible. And then we have a kind of network of local farms that we're friends with through being farmers ourselves and through being in the area, that are eager to work with our technology and learn about it and use it to accelerate their growth. So we have that network existing that is really excited to use it, and we have probably the next at least 6 months to a year of beta customers and initial customers already excited to use our technology. So I see that kind of being the first step, as getting that technology into their hands and getting lots of feedback and iterating, and most importantly, making our first customer really happy before we try to give it to 5 people who are moderately, okay with it. If we can really make that first customer really excited and tell all their friends and be that use case of, I'm happy with this product and I want to use it, and I think it would be helpful for others too. I think that's where we're going to really thrive, because there's been a lot of ag tech companies lately that have been struggling. Some have shut down, and I think there's a lack of trust in consumers right now, that ag tech will actually work for them. So we want to really instill that sense of trust in our users, that not only is our technology good and helpful, but even if Rotate8 doesn't exist in the next year, next 5 years, that technology will still be helpful for them. So our platform, whether or not, Rotate8 is there to support it, is useful. It is helpful, and it is providing ROI. Now, of course, I hope we're, around for the next 20 years supporting that technology, but because of the, chaos of the industry lately, I think it's important to reassure our customers in that way.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to ask you at this point, can you talk about the value proposition of kind of what does the solution bring and to which segments of the market? Because I know you've shared some of that with me previously. I think it'll add an interesting layer here to the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rotate8 builds smart farm automation equipment that is low cost, modular, repairable. So kind of one of our core initial products is our precision farming rover. It is a general purpose platform for farming implements. So it can help with soil prep, seeding, cultivation, harvest aid, mowing. Essentially, for farmers, they'll be familiar with this. It's basically just a toolbar. So you can just attach different things to it, and it can, help you with those implements. My co-founder likes to say that it's like an iPhone where people can put different apps on it and that makes it so versatile. And the value proposition, particularly for our system, is primarily that it's so low cost that the ROI is within 6 months based on average labor costs, but also that it is both modular and repairable. So we're not prescribing a solution to farmers saying, okay, you're going to have this size robot with this power input with this tool, and it's going to be useful for this task and this crop. There are a lot of existing solutions that are, this is for harvesting grain, and it is this dimension, and it is, they can operate at this speed. And our solution is a lot more general purpose than that, in that you can kind of attach different implements, scale it to different dimensions, give it different power inputs. And in that modularity, we've also made it very repairable. So one frustration that a lot of our customers, a lot of farmers here have had frustration with lately is the lack of right to repair. A lot of companies, it used to be that you could buy a tractor and you could just keep fixing it for 100 years. It was like Theseus's tractor. And nowadays, it's very difficult to do that. You need to send it to a licensed repair person who has to send out for a single special part that's going to take 3 months to come in, and then it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to get that repair, and you're going to just be completely black boxed from that. You have no idea, how to do that yourself or what's going on, and you're just paying the bill. So we really want to address that by focusing on right to repair and focusing on, if you own equipment, then you own that equipment, you can fix that equipment, it's your equipment. So by making it so modular, we also make it very possible for, if something breaks, you can fix it. If you need to change something, you can do that. You don't need, a third-party licensed technician with a big fee and wait list to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I love that, and just the accessibility that brings, and knowing in robotics, a 6-month ROI is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to hear how you're thinking about seasonality into the thinking of like how you'll go to market, when and how you'll talk to prospective customers. And, I was talking to another CEO recently that in kind of the outdoor robotics space that does like large scale mowing. So like golf, airports. Curious, how that factors into your thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely big effects of seasons on farming, of course. Especially, in the winter is when farmers are often thinking about their budget for the next year, their plans for the next year, if they're going to be purchasing equipment. So targeting that season as, a good time to get the word out there to farmers. This could be a great opportunity for your next season, for your next growing season. Um, Definitely, applicable. However, I will say that, because the value proposition is so strong and the ROI is so fast, we've talked to people who, we told them, hey, maybe we can get you a unit in July, August, which is sort of near the end of the strongest season. And they're still like, yeah, I want it whenever I can get my hands on it. It's still going to be so useful for us. We still have so many applications during that time frame. So while I would say, winter is going to be a great time to start these conversations, it's going to be year round useful.
Very good. Katie, I'd love to shift gears a bit and hear a little bit more about you as a leader. Can you talk a little bit about your leadership style and what's shaped that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we talked about, I'm an engineer first and foremost, and kind of I'm a leader as a consequence of that, of seeing kind of that there was a role that needed to be filled in terms of leading this engineering team and stepping up to do that. My leadership style is very cooperative. I don't want to ever steamroll anybody. I don't want to ever, tell people what to do. I want to come to that conclusion together as a team. I think that makes everyone feel a lot more ownership in their work too. We have a very small team, but every person on the team has a strong sense of pride and responsibility for their systems and for the whole system. I think it's easy for individuals to kind of focus a lot on their one aspect of the system and either take for granted or not understand the kind of implications that has to the system as a whole and to our products and our solutions. And I think that can be a little bit dangerous, especially, as we're in the growth stage that we are right now. So, everyone on our team has a really good system level view of everything that we're doing at the company. We're very open. There's not really a lot of, hierarchy or secrecy in terms of, leadership versus engineers. There's really none of that. So being very open and being very collaborative is really core to how I think our team is so successful.
Mm-hmm. And as you think about the team's skill sets and kind of where the business is headed, are there shifts in kind of the skill sets you think you'll need or additional skill sets as you move into the next phase of the business?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to need to focus more on our customer success segments. Right now, our team is primarily engineers, and we're all working directly with the customer. We've all gone together on customer site visits and worked together on that. And I think having as we start to move out of the beta phase and into the full product launch phase, having a stronger focus on customer relationships and troubleshooting and sales and making relationships with those customers is going to be really important. And I think we've all been doing that, but having more dedicated focus on that is going to be very important as we scale.
Yeah, yeah. And I would think just being so customer focused now as you are and kind of living in the environment of the customers that you serve will give you a really strong foundation to continue to build on that.
I think so too.
I'd love to hear, Katie, is there anything that you're focused on at the moment, maybe outside of the day-to-day, that you're most kind of excited or passionate about?
Yeah, we are starting to develop relationships and working through logistics of partnering with several other technology partners. So because our platform is this general purpose tool, essentially, a lot of other technology companies have approached us interested in collaborating. So they've created a tool for weeding or for seeding or for crop inspection, to name a few, and they need a platform to get that tool out into the fields. They've built the sensor, they've built the actuator, and they started trying to build a platform to do that, and they realized, that's, first of all, that's a lot of work, and also, someone else is already doing it in such a way that makes it really easy to interface with because of our modularity and because of our openness. Then it makes perfect sense to work together. So I'm really excited about not only getting our tool, in the hands of farmers who will put their implements on it, their standard farming implements, but also kind of enabling this next generation of farming tools by being the platform that gets it out there to the customers. Again, coming back to that whole iPhone concept, right? We built the core technology, and these people are making the next big thing that they can put on our platform, and we can empower farmers in completely new ways. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds fantastic. And I'm curious, was that in the thinking for the company from the start, or is that something that came up kind of as an opportunity that you're responding to?
Yes, that was absolutely one of the goals from the start. Is that not only could we put these existing implements that farmers are already familiar with, but also exploring the next generation of farming tools with this platform. And it also, frankly, expands beyond farming as well. That's of course our kind of core segment right now. But we've talked about things like we have this tool for magnetic sweeping that we can put on the platform that we pick up nails, and that kind of thing is really useful for airfields, and other just as one example of a number of applications that this very general purpose platform can apply to. So I really see us being an enabler for all kinds of technologies, and as we grow, delving into a number of fields as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. Are there areas that, as you think about your own kind of leadership and kind of being at the helm of the organization, that are pushing you the most, either in areas that you haven't, kind of muscles you haven't flexed before, or most outside of your own comfort zone?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am definitely a people pleaser. I always have been. And, I have this very collaborative work style, and I want us all to get along. But every once in a while, we don't all get along. And, so, someone needs to make those decisions, and do hard things, and not make everybody happy. And that has been definitely challenging for me in a growth stage. And I'm getting better at it through all of the challenges of being a leader. But it has definitely pushed me in new ways.
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely shared some of that as well in my own experience, and I think for me, it took a number of years to really, like, truly, like, learn to trust my gut. And there were
Yeah.
times when I felt like something was the right decision, or I knew it needed to happen, but either like would ruffle too many feathers, or bigger risk or whatnot. So that was something that I recall as really like benefiting the business once I really like followed that
Mhm.
instinct more.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see now, a year or two into this process of having to make those hard decisions and seeing the results of them. Um, I see that it's been better for everybody. The team is better for it. The company is better for it. So it's given me a lot of confidence to, like you said, trust my gut, and start to be more confident and more quick with making those decisions, because honestly, when I first kind of stepped into this role, sometimes I would put off difficult decisions because they were difficult, and I knew that I would ruffle those feathers, and I didn't want to upset anybody. And I think that that only hurt. And by kind of ripping off the band-aid and making those tough calls, it's just made everything better. And now seeing that in hindsight has made me a lot more confident.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think decision making is one of those topics that I could talk endlessly about, but I think it's varies so much depending on the situation, depending on someone's individual leadership style, what the organization can absorb, and so recognizing that like each decision has its own kind of pace, right, to make sure that it's not
Mhm.
too fast, and then you're missing certain things too slow, and like you said, to the detriment of the organization, or the things that need to come after that.
Yes, absolutely. There's the other side of that coin of, making decisions too quickly and not having all the facts. And I think as you learn more about the problem, you kind of asymptotically approach having all the information that you need to make the decision. And kind of once you've hit that inflection point of, okay, I do have all the information now, I know what needs to be done. I think having the confidence to make that happen is really important as a leader.
Hmm. I'd love to hear a bit more, Katie, just about your background prior to your current role. Like, who were you as a kid? How did you get to where you are today? Were you always fascinated with robotics? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess starting from the beginning, as a kid, I was very curious and a little indignant. So I always wanted to know more, and I always wanted to be a part of things. And even as a kid, I remember being frustrated that I wasn't being, I guess, included and respected to the same degree as, everybody else. And I think mm, keeping that with me has actually been important. I think sometimes, I think, frankly, especially as a woman, society tries to kind of beat that out of you a bit of, you don't, deserve to have X, Y, and Z. You don't deserve to be a part of it. You don't deserve to know these things. It's not for you to know. So keeping that curiosity and that indignation a little bit through my schooling and through my career has been important and sometimes scary. Sometimes, I have to challenge the status quo and push back a little bit on, you know, standards and society and people's preconceived notions of how things should be. But I think that's helped me a lot as a leader and helped me a lot to um, have the confidence and continue questioning why things are the way they are. When it comes to engineering, why things been designed this way, and when it comes to interpersonal communication and you know building relationships and having that confidence that I deserve to be here and that it's important to continue always learning and questioning and asking the right questions um and 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 never accepting things the way they are has been really important for me. And I think I'm glad that I continued pushing through in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's such a good skill set for an entrepreneur. And I like how you said curious and indignant, because I think those two, work in tandem really well. And I'm curious to ask, you mentioned kind of sometimes having to push through things that are scary. Are there anything that comes to mind of kind of how you do that, or kind of an example where you did that and kind of what that looked like for you?
hmm Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I made a pretty significant, career change recently of, going from being an engineer. And I have had leadership positions at, you know, in college and in groups that I've been a part of and in careers of, technical leadership. But sort of making a pretty big jump from where I was as an engineer to, such a leadership position here at Rotate8. So I think that was scary sometimes of thinking, who am I to think that I can lead this team when, I've been an engineer for so long and coming into this leadership position. So that was definitely very scary for me. And I had to keep reminding myself, no, you deserve to be here. You're asking the right questions. You're figuring it out and you can do hard things. And my co-founder has had a lot of faith in me too, and has given me a lot of confidence in pushing me to do scary things and believe in myself and, you know, ask to have conversations with these people I, wouldn't think that I, am peers with or, making tough decisions and being a leader. So that has been very scary for me. And I think it's given me even more confidence in that regard of, you can do scary things, you can do hard things.
I love that. I love that. Would love to also just hear a bit more about, the company as far as, what else is happening in the market landscape around the company. You talked a little bit about kind of some, risk aversion around ag tech based on what's happened with some other companies. Talk about kind of what's happening in the market and what kinds of kind of realities or like transformations are is your target market facing?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a labor shortage in ag. Um, we are seeing, millions of farm labor job openings that are being unfilled in the United States alone. Um, there are some political factors in that as well, having to do around immigration and availability of labor. And there's also been a shift kind of generationally of farming is not the sexiest career right now. It's hard. It's hard work. I spent 6 months volunteering at a farm in Boston as a harvester for produce, and it was really hard. If it was pouring rain, if it was 90 degrees, if it was whatever, we were out there in the sun, in the heat, digging through these kind of like sharp weeds to get at these plants. It's really hard work. So it's not as desirable of a career, to a lot of young people, especially. And so you're seeing this kind of shift away from interest in being farmers. And we've heard this from some of our customers too. They've been running farms for decades, and they're seeing, generation by generation less interest in these careers because it is really hard and not the highest paying job, of course. So basically, with all those factors and several others, there's there's been a dip in farm labor availability, and it's very expensive to hire labor. So I think there's sometimes this fear in robotics, or I guess outside of robotics, looking in that robots are replacing jobs and they're taking away these jobs from people. And first of all, our robots work alongside people, so we're really not taking away any jobs. We want to work right next to people, and we call that cobotics, where our robot can interact directly with a farm laborer. But also, I think it's important to recognize that it's not like this is a space that people are clamoring for a career in, and I think this comes up a lot when you're hearing about like AI taking jobs from artists and that kind of thing. There's a lot of frustration around this. This is really a whole other ballgame of robots doing what they do best and people doing what they do best. So robots are good at repetitive, dangerous tasks, moving heavy things and doing things over and over and over again all day for 12 hours a day without breaks. Whereas people are good at more precision tasks and creative tasks and problem solving. So working alongside them in that way. I digress. So labor shortages are kind of one of the main drivers of the ag tech industry right now. Identifying tasks that are repetitive, that are time consuming and labor consuming, such as weeding, such as soil prep, such as harvesting and just moving things in and out of the fields, and mowing, are kind of major pain points that robotics can address in a very consistent way. So again, we can let people do the creative parts, do the precision parts, do the things that humans are really good at.
Yeah. My mind was going to a few different places as you were sharing all of that. I think one is like when you were talking about, farming being hard, I can certainly see that. I could also see the rewarding side of it, right? Especially, we know a lot of people are, as a society, less happy just only sitting at a desk all day and kind of being more removed from others. So like the hard work, I think you have something to show for it at the end of the day, and it brings a purpose. So I like the promise, the kind of value prop of what you're bringing, where with technology you can make the hardest stuff a little bit easier, but also hopefully attract people that want to bring kind of the opportunity of the best with technology to an industry that frankly is ingrained in our humanity, right? Farming is just such a lifeblood of society for forever.
Yes, no, absolutely. And we talked to one of our customers here in California, and he said, young people, they love like the first couple times they plant something and see it grow, and they love the first couple times they're weeding, but after doing that day in, day out, and again, it starts to get really starts to weigh on you and be not as fun anymore. So if we can have robots do those repetitive tasks, and you can still have the joy and the sense of fulfillment of growing food and feeding the planet, that would just be incredible. So there's so many people we've talked to, potential future testers or customers, who are oftentimes young people who have been kind of drowned by their laptop jobs, and want to start a farm, and they're learning all the hardships that come along with that, and they're looking for solutions to make it easier and make it more profitable, because frankly margins on farms are often very slim compared to some other careers. So talking to those people about how to make it possible for them to grow fresh, healthy, organic, local food and like feed their communities, that is such a rewarding thing to do. When I was part of this farm in my community that I was working at, I felt such a sense of pride being able to be some part of getting healthy food into the hands of families, and they donated a lot of food to food banks, and making sure that everybody had access to fresh, locally grown produce is so rewarding. So if we can help enable that through and like empower that new generation of farmers, that would just that's our goal. That's what drives us. We're very mission driven in that way to make that a reality.
Yeah. Well, that clearly comes through, and I share that excitement for you and for the opportunities that brings. So, Katie, that was very well said, and I think that's a great place for us to wrap. If our listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to hear more about Rotate8, you can go to our website, rotate8.com. That's the number 8. We're also on, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. And personally, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm super happy to talk to people. I think that mentorship has played a huge role in my life, and I'm just so grateful for the people who have taken the time to help me, even when I was, not a valuable networking person for them to help. So I'm very happy to talk to people. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Katie Bradford, and I'm happy to to set up a call or talk to anybody who's interested in maybe making the switch from engineering to entrepreneurship, or just looking to get into the space. I'm very open to conversations.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Katie. It was so great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you, too, to everybody that's listening. I know I loved hearing so much of what Katie shared with us. And so if today in our episode, you got some valuable insights, and I'm sure that everybody did, please share this with someone. We know that spreading this kind of knowledge and information helps all of us grow as leaders and helps us drive successful change and innovation in our organizations. So thanks again, Katie. And this has been another wonderful conversation on Shift and Thrive. See you all next time. That's a wrap for this week's episode. For show notes and more, visit shiftandthrivepodcast.com. A special thank you to our sponsor, Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service marketing agency to help B2B companies fuel their growth. For more information on Magnitude and to get your complimentary transformation readiness assessment, visit magnitudeconsulting.com/getready. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.